So welcome back to the Iconic Wealth for Women mini-series. This is where we've been exploring building wealth after 40. Is it really too late? But this time we're going to get into the resilience and challenges, because we know, obviously, we talked about social media always is really glossy, pretty on the outside. It always reminds me of a little bit of the iceberg, isn't it? It's always lovely on the outside and then you've got all the little legs running underneath to make it actually happen. And so we know we've talked about wealth building isn't just a strategy, it's also about mindset, resilience, and your inner work in relation to where you're going. So now let's talk about some of the challenges. I want to get deep into kind of some of the things where maybe it's gone wrong and what did you do to deal with that? So Lisa, was there a moment in your journey where you kind of either faced a massive setback or financially, emotionally just went, can't deal with this anymore?
Yeah, emotionally.
Yeah.
So I got bullied really badly at school. And so I already had a fear of being bullied and then put myself as somebody that speaks online about money. What was I thinking?
Why were you doing that? What was I thinking? Yeah.
So in the first year of being online, I got just really badly bullied and trolled by a lot of other people, mainly competitors, if I'm honest, peers, that I didn't expect to happen. And twice this has happened really badly. So in the first year, I wasn't used to it. And so I went to ground when it happened. There were big threads on me. Oh, don't listen to Lisa Johnson. She's like not got any integrity. And integrity is my biggest value. And so that really hurt. And so I hid and said, I don't think I can do this anymore. It seems to be that when you're in the online industry, you have to be mean to each other to get somewhere. You have to put others down to get somewhere. I don't want to be like that. And then a mentor said to me, well, actually, you can quit. It's up to you. Or you can make so much money that people listen to you and you can change it from the inside and show people that there is an ethical way to make money and not to put each other down, and that more people can have money. Collaboration over competition really is a thing. And so I decided to do that. And so that allowed me to then I had a reason, a passion, a kind of force to get back out there and show up and not let it stop me, because I think that one of the biggest ways for me to continue things and to do well is if someone tells me that I can't.
Yeah.
So someone said to me, you won't make it in this industry. When that bullying was happening, we're going to make sure you don't. I knew then that I would, because of that. And so that pushed me on, but it wasn't easy. I had to do a lot of work with Caroline on dealing with how I deal with bullies, how I deal with trolling and defamation and all the things that happen online, because it was actually stopping me from showing up as my best self, because I'd defend myself, never play with the trolls. And I would. And then I worked with Caroline, did some work and felt a lot better. And then this time last year, we had a big launch online where we made £2.5 million. And that got me very visible outside of the industry, mainstream, awful gossip site that I'm not even going to mention who they are. But I went viral on a gossip site with lots of people saying, who's this person? She must be scamming people, all the usual things. They were talking about when my kids go to school, just really scary things. And this time it didn't hurt quite as bad. I was like, okay, I can deal with this. And it was 52 pages worth. And daily them updating my whereabouts, what I'm doing, what I've said, and picking it apart. And I dealt with it a lot better. It still hurt, but I dealt with it better. Then I did a little bit more work. And then this year, I launched again. I've had the same thing happen to me as it always does. People can't cope with a woman making money. So I get trolled, especially in national newspapers. I get trolled a lot there. And it hasn't done anything. It's like water off a duck's back. I'm like, this is great. It's not affecting me in any way anymore. And in fact, I'm using it to my advantage. So when people troll me now, what I do is I take the most amusing one. So somebody said, for instance, that I look like the daughter of Claudia Winkleman crossed with Alan Partridge. I think that's brilliant. I took that. Fantastic. Someone said I must make my money on OnlyFans. There's nothing wrong with making your money on OnlyFans. But I took that and I put them on T-shirts and people buy them. And then we give the money to a charity that I'm an ambassador of called Bullies Out. And what this has done, I didn't realize how much it would not just change things for me, but for others. Because now people that were in my audience that were really scared of being trolled because they'd seen me be trolled, they're now excited about being trolled because they're like, do you think I could put this on a t-shirt? Do you think this is bad enough for a t-shirt? We can sell it for police out. I'm like, the ripple effect of this is amazing. Yeah. So I think that you will always get things that stop you or that scare you either emotionally or financially. How you deal with it is what matters. And if you can't deal with something well the first time, like I didn't, just look inside at what you need to be able to deal with it again. Because we all have things that are going to trigger us and be hard for us. But if we talk about those things, there are always ways to calm down our nervous systems. Like, for instance, if somebody writes something to me on email, and they do this often, they like write me a whole load of stuff about why they hate me and all of these kind of things. I write back, and then I now send that to my assistant, who deletes the whole thing and puts, thank you for your feedback.
Yeah.
And that's how we work. I need to get it out of my head to somewhere. Yeah. It doesn't need to go out there to them.
Yeah. I have a friend that does that for me. I used to be a reactory where I used to react and think later. And now I do exactly the same thing. I'll write it out first, send it to my friend, and then she'll just smile at me, go, don't think you're going to send this, are you? It's like,
people, when we actually think about what those people are going through, it can't be a very nice position to be in, to feel like you have to tear others down. What's going on in your life that's making you want to do that? When you start thinking about people like that, it's easier to not.
Well, that's a sad thing. Most of the time, it's nothing to do with you. It's
nothing to do with
life. I've dealt with that a lot with obviously weight over the years. The amount of times I've been bullied with my weight, or you get comments on. I remember being abused one night in the tube by a guy that was obviously very drunk and decided it was okay to lash out. I mean, everyone sat there and just watched. Everyone sat there and listened. It wasn't until I got off the train, whether they were scared of him, I don't know, whether I got off the train, then three of them come up and said, are you okay now? And it's like,
you could have helped me, 10 minutes ago.
Helped in between. But again, it's something they can lash out at. Weight's a classic one where people think that they can lash out at and it's okay because you wear it obviously on your sleeve and people can't hide from it, can they?
But you're right in what you say. What people think about you is none of your business.
That's it. Yeah. And that is true. It is very true. But like you said, difference before is, like you said, until you do a lot of inner work and a lot of emotional work. Used to take that on with me. It's all about me. What have I done? All that sort of thing. And I don't do that anymore.
It comes back to responsibility again. And I think because we live in such a cortisol-driven society and social media is out there all of the time, it's very easy just to say whatever it is that you want to say. And when we're driven by cortisol in our body, we're always looking for a villain, because I'm going to externalize and make you the villain so I can feel better about my life. But it doesn't just stop there. I also need to get allies in why I feel like you're a villain, to validate why I feel like you're a villain. And we call that in a lot of the work I do around abuse, call that flying monkeys. So they're recruiting all of these flying monkeys to make you the bad person, and then they feel good about that. And actually goes back to responsibility again. When we experience these things, I always think, rather than how dare they say that and what do they do? And of course, there's boundaries on all of those things too. It's, why do I feel like this when they do that? Because actually they're giving me valuable information now about maybe how I feel about myself. And that's what I have power over to work on, not in changing them. Of course, there are boundaries and legalities that we can do with things like this. But, the power is how we feel about that, because that is actually all we ever have control over. But I do think we live in a society, particularly with social media, which is amazing, because, we've built our businesses on social media too, where, these keyboard warriors and trolls, because really there's little consequences in all of those things too. But it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, because we're all still human beings at the end of the day. So, it can hurt. But it's, again, surrounding yourself with the right people, doing the right things, using that as power over why do I feel like that? Because then each time we're building a bigger capacity to be able to cope with all of these things. But when people do that, it really does say more about them, and certainly if I watch things online and I see people saying negative things about the others, I just think, wow, what happened to them in their past to feel like it's acceptable to project their own pain outwardly on someone else? Then the power and control from someone else is, how am I receiving that? And and I think when we live in a society like that, and we actually, when we're looking at bullies, for instance, bullies are deeply wounded individuals really projecting their pain outwardly, but that still doesn't make it acceptable.
No, but it makes it understandable. And I think as soon as you understand it, it doesn't have the power over you that it once did.
It's an explanation. We can explain, but there's no excuse for that. And until these people who do these things take ownership and responsibility of their lives, I wouldn't dream of saying anything mean or horrible about someone. In my head, I might be swearing away and doing all of these things. But you know what? That's for me to know. My responsibility is how I show up, how I am online or wherever it is that I am. And I wouldn't dream of projecting my pain. Well, maybe years ago I might have as such, but now I just wouldn't dream of doing that, because I know if I do that, then that's going to trigger somebody else. And that, we talk about the ripple effect of the good. Well, there's the ripple effect of our own traumas and it just perpetuating down.
Exactly. And I think that's powerful, because I think especially as you get a bit older, I don't know whether it's age, but I've definitely changed and calmed so much over the last 10 years. You do care less, but I think because you're also doing a lot of work on yourself. It's like they say, every business is an entrepreneurial journey, is always a personal development journey, isn't it?
You have zero control of what someone else thinks about you, because they will think about you to suit their narrative, to make them feel better. It's, our nervous systems are driving us to feel better, for us to feel safer. Yeah. So if somebody is saying something mean or horrible, it's to help them feel better, to help them feel safer.
And we can feel that this is true, because in every single person at this table, you're a villain in someone's story and you're a saviour in somebody else's.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard that many times. Yeah. So Steph, what about you? What's been one of your biggest kind of, challenges or resilience in relation to being in the property space, growing your portfolio and getting to where you are now?
I think to transition from the property business, the rent-to-rent, the property management, into building the property assets, longer term wealth building, if you will. We were joking earlier about builders, but I suppose the first thing is the money. A lot of typical property investors, they have the connections, they understand money, they know that it's typical not only to get money from mortgages, but also to get private finance. They understand about short-term borrowing and how to weigh up the risk. They understand how to present their story to the lenders in the right way. They understand the right brokers to use. So we were just starting from really zero and just learning, soaking up everything we could and being willing, to get things wrong, but also having a struggle to kind of believe that people would invest in us. So, for example, one of the properties we were buying, this is in Wales, it was 440,000 it was on for, and so it was about 100,000 we needed in upfront buying costs, a little bit more than that, and so we had some of that already from our business, and we were looking for investment, and we were also looking for borrowing, and that challenge of, sometimes I look back and I think, why did you not give up?
Yeah, love it. Yeah.
Or why did you think you could do that? And it was just going through the brokers to all the different lending places, doing all the things that make your heart beat fast, like speaking to people and saying, do you know anyone who would like to be involved in this kind of investment, or things like that, things that, make me nervous or made me nervous. And just, I think it's what you said earlier, that was a great word, grit. It's just having this belief, even when all the other negative thoughts come in, we're going to do this, we can find a way. And I think that a thought that occurred to me is, this is easy for so many people, that the answer is out there. It's not that I've got a Richard Branson level problem where I'm running hundreds or thousands of companies and some of these things I've never seen before. This is a simple thing. What's currently a level 10 problem for me is a level 1 problem for lots of people. So the answers are out there. And that just got me through, just knowing that somehow we would find the way through. And it meant that we got the financing we need. And as well, it's like a snowball. You start off and it's hard at first to get bigger, but then the snowball just grows on its own afterwards. So then people come to us wanting to invest. And so I think it's just really, like we've been saying all along, it's just keep learning, keep doing what you're doing, the results will come.
I love that. And it's about keeping taking action, isn't it? Because like you said, I love that analogy that it's a small thing for someone else, but it was a big thing for you. And again, now for you, it's probably not a big thing. It's probably a small thing. Yeah. So really, really powerful in relation to kind of your action taking and get moving past it, because we all have to do that. Otherwise,
but don't you think the biggest thing is resilience?
It is. Yeah.
Like, how many of us would have quit? If we didn't have the resilience to go, there's got to be a way to get through this. There has to be an answer somewhere, because I think a lot of people don't do that. Their resilience is low and they go, oh, this is hard.
A lot of people think that it's all down to money. So, a lot of the excuses you
choose your heart, though, isn't it? Choose your heart.
It's often one thing after another, because you've got the finance in place. Then, just before you're supposed to sign, something drastic has changed in the, they were offering you X%, now it's going to be Y%, and that throws the whole deal out of the water. So there's that. Then you actually start the development, and then COVID comes along.
Yeah.
And then this happens, the next thing happens. So it's layer upon layer upon layer of challenges, and just being an entrepreneur or having a business is just being a problem solver.
That's right.
Constantly.
Do you know what I think that is? It's a really good point when we talk about expectation. I think sometimes many of us expect a time where it will all be peaceful. And I can't remember who said this. I read it. It was a post on Facebook maybe a couple of months ago, and it was saying, really successful entrepreneurs don't expect that there won't be challenges. They just build their nervous system capacity to be able to cope with the challenges that happen. Because I think sometimes when we start a business, we're expecting this magical time where everything will be peaceful.
That's never happening.
Everything else as well. And then we're just kind of waiting for that moment, and then we might stop.
It's perception, right? It's perception on... what is your perception of a successful, nice, easy business? Well, it's still to have challenges, but knowing how to deal with them.
Yeah. It's always going to challenges.
Yeah. But you always have a balance, don't you? They always say, like, one thing's working in your life, the other two things are going wrong, or two things are working in your life, something's going wrong. And it's the same in business, isn't it? You'll get one thing working, and then maybe you'll lose a team member, and it's like suddenly you've got to start it over again.
Life, isn't it? We're always going to have challenges personally, professionally, and it's just rolling with them and doing the best that you can.
But that's why when people say, oh, well, I've got a business, but I have to stop the business because something in my personal life has happened, I'm always like, that isn't how life works. You have to continue things on even when hard things are happening.
That's one of our challenges, I think, when we're talking about this in my business, where, if someone has, say, signed up to a payment plan, and obviously our work is around trauma and mental health, and it's this expectation like, oh, I'm just going to stop paying as such. And, it's that tightrope balance of, I'm really sorry you're experiencing all of that, payment pauses, we can extend all of those things, but you have signed a legally binding contract with that. And I think certainly for me, I get leveled, but you should know what it's like. You've lost everything before. Yeah. And it doesn't mean I am not sympathetic and compassionate to that. Absolutely,
but we are businesses.
But we are businesses because we reinvest and we use that for supporting other students and other things too. But there is a definite expectation, I think, particularly around mental health, that, we will get those emails that I just can't continue because of my mental health. And it's like, well, let's work together and navigate all of that for you as well. But then, of course, you're made the villain because you don't understand, you're not this, you're these things. And it is a very tightrope balance, I think, with that too. Again, the expectations that people have around those types of things.
Especially when you're doing
women, I don't think people expect that as in the same way from men.
No, I think you're so right.
They play on the emotional side with women.
Really
they do.
And it's certainly one of my biggest challenges because, sometimes I'm like, just stop their payments. And it's a case-by-case basis. And yet sometimes people are like, we've even got somebody now saying, well, if you don't refund me my first two payments, I'm just going to do a chargeback anyway. And
I'm going to say something online
about it. But you've just given me proof that you're blackmailing me now. So bring it on kinds of thing. So, you know, and I'm somebody, I think I'm very generous in my business. I'm very, very compassionate. But you know what? If you want to push me, I will see you in court. You know, and I've done that because, you know, we will try and always understand it's the ghosting side of things for people. But I also understand that because I know when I was going through my financial stuff, you know, I'd get these red letters coming through the door and I'd put them in the bin. You know, I buried my head. So I understand all of that, but we have to go through a process. And if nothing changes, nothing changes.
But I think again, and that's business, isn't it? It's like you said, it's the detachment that actually you're still running a business. Yes, you're a female running a business, but that doesn't mean you have to be emotionally blackmailed in relation to that. I had one of those for the conference, and I had this massive email because she couldn't come to the conference, and I was like, it very clearly says no refunds, all that sort of stuff. We've already spent the money; it's gone. It's covering the cost.
If you do that, they say. Oh, I thought you had, because my value is integrity. I thought you had integrity.
That's what I got.
Integrity is treating every single person the same and what's in the contract. Integrity isn't just whoever's got the biggest story for you.
And that's what I said to her, very much the same. I went back and I said, well, how is yours more important than someone else's? I said, you know, I've turned, you know, it's simple as that. It's like, where does the boundary stop?
I think one of the key things is, you know, we can hold space for both elements of that. You know, I can hold space of, I am really compassionate for you, but I'm also holding space, I am running a business. And it's okay for me to hold both of those ways in running my business. It's not an either or. It doesn't mean, well, no, if we're holding your contract, you know, you're this kind of nasty person. You're not. I can be sympathetic and I can hold space for that as well. And I think people find that hard to understand.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful because, you know, it's like you said, in building business, it's about resilience. It's about dealing with these sort of emotional and mindset, these sorts of issues, but you are ultimately building a business. And I think sometimes, especially as women, we forget that. It's like we're here because we care, because we're passionate. We've got our passion and why we're doing what we're doing. But the simple fact is it comes back to we are
and we've
still
got team to pay. We've got, you know, we have responsibility for our health as well.
Yeah, and you're not doing it for the fun of it. You know, most of them got bills. I have that, and I've had a few recently. And I just said, what makes you think that I don't have bills to pay and that it's okay for you not to pay?
I think that's one of the biggest issues. It's one of the biggest issues that people think.
Especially if you're successful. They think,
when they buy from you, so all the money's going in your pocket. It's like,
you're like lying on your bed.
Have you ever seen that picture? We definitely have to have a picture. I need a money bed with these two. So, and again, it's really, really interesting. So I think that it just shows you, though, isn't it? You know, it's a journey. It's a have yourself surrounded, and I think that's the other big important thing we haven't really talked about much is be surrounded by people that can lift you up when you need it. Because we know whether you're starting out, whether you're getting into property, building your business, whatever you're doing, you're going to have setbacks. Simple as that, and they don't define you. As simple as that, they do that. They don't define you as a person. Resilience, adaptability, and taking action does. So are you going to get past that and make the life that you actually truly want to? So that's the end of this section. In the next section, we're going to be starting to talk about how you can actually get started, some of the practical elements that you need that you could probably take today or start to think about today to get you started on your own journey. Thank you so much.